Welcome back into Momentous Struggle, a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast. On today's episode, we're going to break down the new and upcoming This Party's Over box with Mace Windu, Commander Pons, and the ARV Troopers. So let's go ahead and jump into it. As always, I'm joined here by Aubrey. Aubrey, how are we doing today?
Oh, I am excited, Todd. I am ready to talk about this box. I wish I already had it in my hands, but that's okay. I can wait a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I know you've been excited. You're the good guys type of a player, anyways, and I think this box is going to be giving some much needed support for the clones and the Galactic Republic in general. But I know that we had some other stuff going on. Have you? I know you've played in a couple games. How have your games been going?
So I played for the first time against my stepson. He's been solidly on Mandos, but this time he wanted to try out the Inquisitors. So he did a one team full Inquisitors, Grand Inquisitor, Riva, and Fifth Brother, and then he brought with them a Mandos team of Maul, Gar Saxon, and the Super Commandos. So it was a little bit different from what I've seen other people run. And spoilers, he took it down. We were playing with the tournament mission critical rules because we wanted to practice. We wanted to practice getting comfortable with that very quick third struggle if you get to it with the extra momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And he also had to learn. He was not used to being so controlling. He kept looking at his stance cards and he's like, man, they don't do a lot of damage or they don't do enough damage because he wasn't playing Vader, right?
Yep.
To add that extra dice. And I was like, yeah, but what do they do? And he went on to, use Maul's force pull to get people off of the point. He was using the Inquisitors to make the ties go in his favor. Yeah, it felt very strong. I did have so the one point is there was this moment where I had Luminara in reserve, and I was planning on using her on my next activation to full recover Obi-Wan,
Mm-hmm.
but instead, Perrin hit his Shatterpoint card and activated Maul to just come in and just wound Obi-Wan on the spot. Like he had already had 4 damage and a couple of conditions on him. It's why I was planning on healing him. And no, Maul wounds Obi-Wan, and this was very early in struggle 1. So basically I had in struggles 2 and 3, I was so taxed on my force because you really want to use Obi-Wan's abilities. They're really strong. Hello there's great, but I swear I used most of my force on him instead of on my defensive maneuvers and things. And I think that just him getting that Shatterpoint card at the exact turn that I was going to heal Obi-Wan after he had gotten into this early dust up with Maul, just put me on the back foot for too long of the game. Like I was spending way too many resources on this because Obi-Wan was in a key point because our second struggle was the straight up and down one, or maybe that was the third one.
That would have
Well,
been the
anyway,
third
so
one.
at
Yeah.
one point, the third one, yeah, we had the straight up and down, and I just kept having to rely on Obi-Wan because he was in between the second and third points, and it was costing me so much force. So yeah, it just kind of edged slowly away from me. This wasn't one of those. The decisive moment happened in struggle 1, and then it was just this battle of attrition that I was losing.
Oh, jeez.
So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean it
yeah.
happens. It happens. I mean, especially like with I mean, the Inquisitors just are really an interesting team. So because I had basically yesterday was my another tournament, and the tournament we played yesterday, it felt more like a learn to play event. In some ways, there was a lot of newer players. I think one of the at least a couple players had only played like maybe 1 or 2 games of Shatterpoint prior to this, so it was a very casual tournament. I really did enjoy it, but there was like a lot of teaching moments and stuff like that. A lot of rules clarifications for the different players at the table. So I think especially like in my first game, like the player across from me had probably just been playing house games for the most part. So a lot of their games had not really been playing by the actual rules of the game, and they were missing a lot of them. So we were like doing that, and then a person who was sitting right to my left, again, newer player, hadn't played a lot of games, so it was a lot of helping him out as well, going through a lot of the rules and making sure that that was that. And I mean, I enjoyed it. I ended up going 2-1. I lost to, like, in the last round to, it was basically me and one other person were the two undefeateds going into the last round because there was only 8 of us and we were doing 3 rounds. So it worked out well. I mean, I had a good time, but it was, I mean, yeah, I ended up, my second round was probably my one of the coolest games that I had. We ended up playing. I was playing my normal droids that I normally play, and I was playing against a Vader Inquisitors team. And man, his Vader was just coming through, doing his Vader's Fury or Vader's Vengeance or whatever it's called, and moving forward, getting the
Yeah.
2 extra dice. But the thing was, is he was going all the way down his chart on with all of the Inquisitors, but they weren't killing his people or wounding people. They were leaving 1 damage left. On in most times they weren't able to sit there and go all like do enough damage to put a wound on. And I think that's kind of what, like, it felt like I mean, I lost the first struggle handily. Came back, second struggle I was able to come back. By the third struggle, it was basically like all of my characters had already flipped because he had to attack into them twice. So I was already, like, they were completely healthy going into that last struggle, and basically I was able to go and attack and not worry about the repercussions of it, so to speak. So that was, I think that's one of the downfalls that you have with Vader is like, maybe, and I wouldn't even say downfalls. I think it's just you have to, when you're playing a Vader team and taking that additional 2 damage to try and get all of those additional dice, you need to make sure that you're taking the time to look at the character you're attacking so that you are able to ensure that you are going to be able to, if you go all the way down your chart, completely wound them. Because I think that was like one of the things that had, what retrospect, me and the my opponent Matthew were talking about it, and it was like that's really what I think kind of hurt him, was that he just was not putting the wound on them with a one hit, like one hitting my opponents, or one hitting me, I should say.
Yeah. And do you think some of that was, I know the droids have a little bit more durability than, say, like, think it comparing to the clones, because my experience playing the clones against them is they were wounding my guys left and right, which was what was impacting. Like, I couldn't use coordinated fire, I couldn't use some of the abilities that just aren't worth it once you start having to spend a force. Do you think that had something to do with it?
I'm almost positive it did. I mean, you look at the B2s; they have protection, so they reduce the damage there. So that was part of it. One of the other things is looking at the Magna Guard, who I also run. They can take 10 damage. So it's basically
They're beefy.
either exactly. So they're very difficult to one shot unless you're attacking them with a primary. So I think those are definitely some factors. Is that the droids just have a little bit more survivability and are not able to be one shotted like sometimes the clones are. And I think that it really had an impact on it.
Yeah, and that's just it's nice to see a lot. Been listening to a lot of the other podcasts that are creating content for our community, and that's been the general consensus, is that there's some pretty good back and forth between all the factions. Yeah, we all think the clones are a little lackluster at the moment, but there's, the droids have their durability, the Inquisitors have their control. We've got a good back and forth with all the different groups.
Definitely, definitely. And touching on the other content creators out there, definitely, I know I've heard multiple times, well, on the Zion's Finest podcast, they've given us a shout out. So definitely super excited about them. And I actually joined their Slack as well because of, I like just enjoy
Me
talking to
too.
them as well. So, and I know, I think you had you wanted to kind of give a shout out to like all those other podcasts out there as well. So, I mean, definitely,
Yes. Yeah, these are, so, because I keep just trying to emphasize this, because I feel like some early attitude, and this is just people on the internet throwing out hot takes, but this is a new game. This is new. Your first tournament at this other store, not the one where we've been playing at the league and things. That you sounds like you spent half your time helping people learn the ropes, get used to how to play, get comfortable, and so. we're in the early days of a new game. This is great. This is a new community. So we have all these other content creators, and I'm like Zion's Finest gave us a shout out. I know this week I was listening to the Hello There podcast, to Rogue Support, to Zion's Finest as well. They all had great insights into the game. I mean, one episode that I think it was Hello There. I'm gonna get this wrong, but you should listen to all of them. I think because they spent a whole episode just talking about terrain,
That was Zion's
just
finest, yeah.
how to. Oh, Zion's Finest. That's right. That episode was great. It gave
Yeah,
me all of these ideas for how to change it up because if you're just operating out of the core box, there's kind of only so many configurations you can do, but they were giving me all kinds of ideas for how to think outside the box.
definitely.
And then others that I yeah, and then others that I haven't listened to yet, but go check them out because I plan to. Want to hear what everybody's saying, try and get a consensus going with this new game we're all interested in. And so we've got the High Ground, Outriders, the Jedi's Order, Gamers Guild, and then, like I said, I already mentioned Zion's Finest, Hello There, Rogue Support. I've already listened to their content myself, and it was great. Different insights, different views. I mean, a lot of us are also in agreement because there's only so much you can talk about yet. It's not like MCP where what did you tell me? There's like 150 different
Models
characters
out
you
there.
can play. Yeah, we're not there yet.
No,
So
not there
even
yet.
even though even though I'm not upset about that, we get to have fun in a new sandbox.
Granted, yeah. I mean, an MCP has been around for 4 years already. This one's only been around for a couple months, so I think we'll get there. It just is going to take some time. But yeah, no,
Right, we're all new. We're all new. We're all new. Maybe you have experience from other games, but in this game, elevation is going to matter more. The whole, different concepts, different abilities that you have. We're all learning, everybody.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, no, I definitely want to encourage everyone to listen to all the different podcasts out there. There's different information, different takes on different information, and I think every single content creator out there adds different important pieces of information to the entire general idea of Shatterpoint. So I definitely encourage everyone to listen to all the different podcasts out there. I know I do. I try to listen to at least try and get on there as soon as they release their content because a lot of good stuff out there. But yeah, so jumping into pod like our main topic anyway, we're going to be talking about the Mace Windu box, and I know you, like I said, you're super excited about this box. You're ready to go with it already. What I mean, overall, I mean, like, what's your biggest thing that you're most excited about when with this box coming out?
Movement, Todd. Movement. Oh, thank you. Oh, so we have Mace, who not just moves himself, which is already amazing, but he moves an entire unit. He moves a whole unit. That means if you move your supporting characters, you're gonna get to move them both. The Galactic Republic has not had this ability. At best, we've so many times when I've gotten an early Shatterpoint, I have just Shatterpointed Rex of all people, not a primary, not a supporting, just to get some more movement for my team. It's been so frustrating. And now you have a primary that you're going to want to activate with a Shatterpoint card anyway. Spoilers for one of his other abilities, and you're gonna want to do it anyway because of all the movement he gives.
Yeah,
This is now gonna be I'm basically gonna be looking at him and going, is there a reason to not Shatterpoint him? Because otherwise, he's probably gonna be your first pick a lot of the time. Unless something's gone really sideways with some of your early activations.
yeah, definitely. Well, quick rundown on Jedi Master Mace Windu. So he is a 6 squad point character, 4 force, 11 stamina, 3 durability, a primary unit with Force user tag, Galactic Republic tag, and Jedi tag, and of course his Clone Wars era. So the first thing I think that jumps out to me that's the uniqueness of him is that he has those 6 squad points. So basically, very restrictive in his in your squad building for him because you really can only take 3 cost characters at this point in time with him. There's no 2 cost characters. There's only 3 4s and 5s, and so really you're only looking at the only way to fill him out is to take only 3s, and we're very limited on 3s in his case. And there's only one secondary 3, which we'll definitely be jumping into as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah. There are only 5 total units that have 3 squad points. I mean,
yeah,
total.
yes,
That's it. Secondary, supporting, 5.
yeah.
That's it.
So super restrictive, super restrictive. But like you said, I mean, yes, him bringing that rush to action ability, being able to finally get some out of activation move, a little bit more out of activation movement, because Rex brought it. So Rex brought
No,
it, but
Rex is great.
yeah,
I'm not mad about Rex. It's just Rex was holding up the whole Galactic Republic with his one activation.
yeah, no, it was very difficult for sure. So that's one of the things that I know we're really excited about. Um, but I'm looking at some of his other abilities. I'm interested about like your thoughts on the tempered aggression ability, that reactive ability that he has, his only reactive ability too.
Uh, so I feel like this ability kind of reminds me of Anakin's two force ability. Like when I was first playing with Anakin, I was like, I want to do this always. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this.
Yeah,
And then I learned that's a lot of force that you're like if you use Anakin twice, like say you use him and then Shatterpoint him, yes, he gives you an extra force just like Mace. But my word, is it force hungry if you start like trying to wound people and use that ability. And so I feel like tempered aggression is going to be situational. You're not going to want to use it all of the time because that force can go away really quick, and you need it. You need your force for Obi-Wan's hello there. You need it for uh, defensive maneuvers on the clones. You need force, and Mace gives you force, but I think you're only gonna use this if it's gonna be like the difference between getting another shove or wounding a character. Like you're gonna need to really think about it first. Don't just fire. Just don't just look at your sad dice and you got 3 failures there, and you're like, well, I'm gonna re-roll them. Well, if it's not doing anything for you, save your force.
yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're gonna have to be very particular about when you use this for sure. Just simply, I mean, and you kind of touched on it. You definitely got to be careful with making sure you're able to defensive maneuver, especially if you're bringing Obi-Wan with him, because you just need to like the hunker tokens are what it's all about. And I don't think you're not bringing Obi-Wan. I mean, he's still the best thing to be doing within the Galactic Republic synergies because of like all of that synergy with those hunger tokens. So yeah, it's not going to be an every ability or every activation thing that you're going to be using tempered aggression at all. One of the things that I noticed though is like it's going to be tempting to do it. I mean, looking at his trees, especially like his Form 7 tree, it goes like 6 down the
So much
tree.
damage.
And I mean, if you're wanting to take full advantage of that, you're gonna probably want to sit there and take advantage of using that ability. So it's to re-rolling those attack dice because yeah, I mean, if you need to pump out that one last damage and like oh now maybe if I re-roll this one dice, it's so there's some concerns there. But I mean, re-rolling dice is always great, but yeah, you gotta you
Yeah,
gotta
but
weigh the outcomes.
if I spend 3 force to do it and then I don't hit,
Yeah.
oh, that's gonna hurt. Because remember, that failure is still on that dice.
Correct. I mean, you
Ugh.
at least have the knowledge of knowing it's after the all attack dice and defensive dice have been rolled. So this is going to be after those. So I mean, you have the knowledge before you use it, but you're still gambling. Me and like uh, going back to my tournament last week, in my last or yesterday, I should say, in my last game. I can count 3 times on my defensive dice at least where I was rolling 5 defensive dice, and 3 of the times were failures. So it's like dice are going to do dice things. I mean, and like you can spend force, and the dice are still going to do what dice do, and just not give you the results that you want. It's just what happens. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you have the force to be able to spend. I think it's a great ability. If but you also have to keep in mind like when are you activating him? How many other people are going to be coming before you activate him? So you're not wasting all of that force for sure.
Right. I don't think you're going to want to just fire off this ability early. I think this is going to be more where you get one of those late mace activations. which I don't know how often that's going to happen, especially since I know we're going to talk about it, but his Shatterpoint ability
Hmm.
makes it less likely that you're going to be activating him late. But there's definitely going to be scenarios where you're going to have some force. I mean, nothing feels worse than going to refresh your force, and this tend to only happen when I was playing Anakin, so I assume it's also going to happen when with Mace. Is you still had one force left over, and you're like, wait, what? What did I do? And it comes from resource management. Like when you play with 6 points, you're very careful and conservative with them. When you get that extra point, you're like, oh, I have so much freedom.
Yeah.
Okay, calm down. No, you have like maybe one activation of this that you can maybe use at the right time. Don't just fire it off because you're mad that your dice was failing you, you know?
Exactly, exactly. Well, I mean, let's jump right into that next ability, his Shatterpoint ability. I mean, that's looks really exciting. I mean, especially the fact that you can refresh some of your force. How how do you like this ability? Where you stand on it?
Okay. So this is one of those things, and this might just be me from my time with Magic. I'm used to really having to practice resource management and planning ahead because I like to play control decks, and you have to think about, okay, what is your opponent going to do in the next few turns? And I feel like using Mace, the Shatterpoint card is random essentially. You don't know when you're going to get it, and unless you're playing with Luminara, I guess. Maybe you might know, but then you're going to want to really manage. Do you want the impact 2 or do you want the force refresh? Like, when are you activating Mace with the Shatterpoint card? This is another one where I'm just going to repeat back what I said. I don't think you're going to want to activate Mace just because you drew your Shatterpoint card. I think you're going to want to look at what stance is he on? Where is he on the battlefield? Who's around him? Because if you're activating him on the Vapod side and you're doing impact 2, well, basically all you're wanting to do with him is make a focus action and attack. Well, is he even in a good spot where that's gonna matter? So I think like you're gonna have to think on his previous activation. What side is he on? Where do I want him to end up? Do I need the force refresh? And and I feel like this is something, and maybe it's just because I struggle with it. I don't think we use the other side of the primary stance cards enough. I feel like it's kind of an afterthought because in this game, most of the time the aggressive side is just better, and you just want to stay on that side. And this is the first time where you're gonna have to be like, okay, what's gonna happen in say 3 turns when I've used a few other units and used some force? Okay, I want to be on the Jedi Master side. Oh, why do they keep making the skill level of the clones so much higher? You don't have to think about this with clones. You don't have to think about this with Mandalorians. Like
Yeah.
even Vader's just like, nah, everybody gets extra damage. And I'm over here going, all right, Luminara, Mace, Obi-Wan. What am I doing 3 turns from now to make sure you all get your synergy correctly?
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, that's one of the things I've like. There's a lot of forethought that's going to have to go into this particular ability, where it's like before you start, like turn zero, making sure that you have him on the right side, and then also balancing. You can only flip that card once per turn, so balancing. Do I want to stay on this side? Do I want to flip to the other side? So there is a whole new problem here to be solved that we haven't had to experience yet. I mean, because like you said, I mean, I know with playing droids, it's like okay, just put Grievous on his attacking health, his most damage side and go at it. Yeah, sometimes if he's gonna like, I might end up like flipping him back to the other side where he's a little more defensive focused if I have him sitting in the middle of the field or something like that. But I mean, it's a second, it's an afterthought. It's not something that's in the forefront of your mind, at least not for me. And I don't think it is for a lot of the players currently because it's just not something we've been concerned about. And it's something that if you're playing Mace, you're gonna have to be concerned about it if you want to fully take advantage of this particular ability. So pretty interesting, pretty interesting for sure.
Yeah, I will say I do feel like on the turn where you have successfully navigated these parameters and you've got a perfect shatter pointed mace activation,
Mm-hmm.
it is gonna feel. like a Shatterpoint. You are
Yeah.
going to feel. I love. This is one of my favorite books from the old Legend series. You are gonna feel. You're gonna feel like a badass when Mace Windu pulls this off. I don't think it's gonna be as often as we think. I don't think you're just gonna automatically. Yep, I'm playing clones. I pulled my Shatterpoint card. It's always Mace.
Yeah. No, I don't think. I mean, it's
Uh,
situation's going to dictate that for sure. So
yeah.
looking at his last ability, he has that identity of this party's over. So this one seems really good to me. I mean, I love protection. I love steadfast. The range 5 for that for all Galactic Republic characters seems amazing to me.
It's so big. It's range 5.
Yeah.
That's so much. You can control, or well, not control, but you can provide this effect to so many points, especially in Struggle 1, where as of right now, it's always those three middle. You already want Mace to be right smack in the middle of the fight, right there in that quagmire that sometimes happens with those three objectives, and then he's gonna give steadfast and protection to whomever is on the other two middle points, basically.
Yeah.
Like maybe the way he maneuvers, you might not get it exactly within 5 of everybody, but range 5 is so big.
Definitely. Definitely very big. Definitely very big. So yeah, no, I love this ability. I think it's giving more, it's really building into what the Galactic Republic is trying to do, just be that defensive focused, shooting at range type of a unit, type of army, and I think it's really playing into that. One of the things
And
that I,
it
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and one of the nice things is gives you a little more like of a safety valve, because a lot of times when you go to remove hunker tokens to use Obi-Wan's heal ability, you have to think about, okay, they can still get attacked after this, especially if it's during an in a opposing supporting unit activation. Like if they just attacked with their first supporting character and you survive that attack, but now you're like, oh, well, I want to remove a hunker token to get this exposed condition off, but then he's not going to have the hunker token, so he's not going to have steadfast anymore. So just having an extra way to give them steadfast during those tough choices. Oh, yeah. I'm very excited. I'm
Yeah,
very excited about this.
couldn't tell at all that you were excited about this.
Anyway, what were you going to say? I
Well,
totally cut you off
oh
there.
no, no, it's fine, it's fine. So yeah, no, I mean I think that's great. I think that's gonna be like you said, adding the durability. Like we noticed with the clone commandos that steadfast and protection is just so solid, especially in conjunction with hunker tokens. So I think this is just these little things are kind of like going to help make the Galactic Republic that so much better. I think it's Mace is definitely adding on a lot of things that we were missing, or at least the Galactic Republic army was missing. Um, and one of the things that I noticed that he also offers that they were missing is the amount of damage output that he can potentially do. Looking at his Form 7 Apod side, he can pretty much one shot everybody except for Vader if he goes all the way down his tree because it does 11 damage, which is very limited in like for a lot of characters. So it's like having that additional damage that he's able to throw out is I think really good.
Yeah, he's very aggressive. He wants to be in the fight. You're rewarded for him being in the fight, and the 11 damage is pretty nice. I mean, there was a couple of moments in that game I was playing with my stepson yesterday where had I just wounded a character, it would have shifted the course of our game, but I only ended up doing like 5 damage, 6 damage, 7 damage on
Mm-hmm.
characters that had 8 or 9 durability, and I'm like, if I could just get a little more damage,
Yeah.
just a little bit more,
Well, I mean,
and this is definitely
I was saying even looking at his Form 7 side, I mean, even just getting 3 successes gives you seven damage. You know, so like
yeah.
he doesn't have to go all the way down his
He
chart to get secondaries and supporting units.
Yeah, he is a beater,
Yeah.
and I don't want to take away from the fact that you know we talked earlier about you're really going to want to flip his stance tree around, but his other side, Jedi Master, is not terrible either. It can do 8 damage If you get a full round of six, 5 successes gets you 8 damage. There's also 3 shoves, so you can get a lot of control on that side. There's also an expose. I mean, he has expose on both sides, which is great. That's so no matter what. But 3 shoves, and the first 2 shoves are your first and second success.
Yeah.
So, so yes, the 11 damage, awesome. But this is the first, honestly, this is the first time I've looked at a backside and I went, hey, this isn't this isn't terrible. I actually want to flip you to this side sometimes because we know how this game is going. It's very objective based. A lot of games are coming down to just flipping objectives at the right time, especially in the second and third struggle where you have the bonus points. And man, this guy's got 3 shoves.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Like
And
you're,
you
you're
definitely
gonna do
need to
something there.
and you definitely need to have the two shoves because there's so much steadfast going around right now that you're not the first shove just doesn't always do anything. So like you really need
Yeah.
two early shoves is really great. So
Yeah. So first one, all around. I like his stance cards, and you're not gonna be. I guess my point is you're not gonna be sad if you flip over to the Jedi Master side and you're like, I'm giving up this damage, but I really need to refresh my force. Nah, don't worry about it.
yeah.
That side's pretty good too.
Yeah, there's definitely utility for both sides of his card, which is really awesome. So it's like you're not you are losing damage, but you still have that utility in a different way. So I do like that about his card. So I mean, overall, I think Mace is great. I really do like him. I think he's definitely bringing some great stuff. Like we were saying in the beginning, though, he's going to be restricted to a specific secondary that just has to come with him, and that's Commander Pons. So I think Commander Pons overall is pretty good. He's got some really interesting abilities. When we kind of look at him overall, what are your, I mean, just overall thoughts with him? Since since he has to be played with Mace.
See, everybody's like the general tone I'm getting is that, oh well, Mace, you have to play with the same secondary. You don't really have options. Yeah, Pons is good though. Like, like, oh, I'm so sad that I'm taking someone who has another move ability, which is what I've been complaining about with clones from day one. He's got solid stats all the way around. He's not worse than either the 212th or the 501st. Certainly, I'd say. I mean,
Cody and
not
Rex.
not
Yeah.
Cody and Rex. I don't know why I said the supporting characters. He's not worse than Cody and Rex. I'd say he's probably better than Cody and not as good as Rex. Like if I
Yeah.
was gonna rake him, which for 3 squad points to be better than Cody, hey, what? Why are we complaining about this? Just throw him
Exactly.
on the table and have fun with Mace.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not a very large detriment to end up bringing him. And like you said, out my big thing that I always love out of activation movement, he's bringing it to the table. I mean, so you're bringing 2 units out of this box that are giving a much needed boost in that area to the Galactic Republic as a whole. So I definitely think that it's great in that part.
Yeah, and you see the difference like in his ability because he doesn't give a hunker token like Rex does. So yeah, yes, he's not as good as Rex, but Rex is really good. For a minute there, we were talking about him being the best Galactic Republic character, you know, all around because of what he was doing.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's fine, everybody.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But I mean, so ability wise, he's a little bit lacking. He only has that one activate like on activation ability of the charge, and then just two innate abilities. So, not I think that's kind of the drawback. I think of or why people are saying, oh, he's not that great, yada yada yada. But I think he's still pretty good. I mean, that incoming ability. I mean, just turning off my favorite condition that I like to dish out is pretty good. I mean, clone troopers that are within 3 of him, if they have a hunger token, they're just immune. They have immunity to exposed. I mean, that's so great, and I'm thinking that pairs really good with what Obi-Wan's already trying to do. You know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. So I've already said if you're playing clones, you pretty much always want to be using their defensive maneuver, which I understand Commander Pons doesn't have defensive maneuver, and I'm telling you to use defensive maneuver. It's fine. It's fine because all of your other clones are pretty much going to have hunker tokens. You can use Rex to give Pons a hunker token. You can, like, I'm learning to appreciate one of my level up moments is I noticed that in the tournament, not the one you played in yesterday, but last week, uh, people were using the take cover action a lot more than I was expecting them to, especially if they were playing clones.
Yes.
And that was a level up moment for me. I was watching it play out, and I was having a lot more trouble, taking points and dealing damage and wounding people. And I realized it's because they were using just take cover more often than I was.
Yeah.
So that's okay. And I understand part of it was because I don't have access to as much movement as everyone else does. Like they have a lot of on activation, and now with pawns and mace, you don't have to necessarily be the one using one of your actions to just move so that you can get up there.
Yeah.
Now we can do the same thing everyone else has been doing with clones and using take cover more often, like use take cover and defensive maneuver and move them up. You'll be able to move them with mace and pawns and rex. Yeah, this is opening up a lot more tactical ability.
Yeah, getting able to move more people into position and not just having to rely on defensive maneuver, take cover, and movement. Like trying to get into the positions you want, you might be able to actually move somebody out of activation, and then because of that, now you can defensive maneuver, take cover, and do an attack or something like that. So like you're actually able to put a little damage down range instead of just moving into a position and adding some hunker tokens. So I think he's going to be adding some pretty good stuff to it, and I do like that, like that piece of it for sure.
Yeah. Plus, it's nice to get a unit that isn't just a carbon copy of the 501st, right? Like, here's coordinated fire, here's brother in arms, here's defensive maneuver. Like, okay, cool. What makes like this is supposed to be a secondary, and secondaries generally have been, unique supporting characters in the story from a story perspective, right?
Yep.
So they should feel a little different from each other, even if we're talking about clones. I mean, come on, are you gonna tell me all the clones look the same?
No, of course not. They have different haircuts. Yeah. So yeah, no, but it's definitely I get where you're going with it, and it's they definitely do bring something to each clone should be bringing, especially the so secondary should be bringing something different. So I mean, it's nice not seeing that same retread of defensive maneuver, brothers in arms, like you were talking about, those same over and over same abilities. So it's nice to not have those. I mean, and talking about not having the same abilities over and over, that last ability of forward scout, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, basically being able to him and whatever supporting unit you have when you're deploying them at range 2 from the primary instead of say, range 1, and that's you're deploying them 3 times as far basically because the range 1 is 1 inch, range 2 is 3 inches basically. So that's getting them even farther down the field. So whoever you're bringing with them, and there's only again a couple of options you're going to be having here, but whoever you're bringing with Pons and Mace, they're going to be much farther down the field.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's honestly, I think that's part of why they didn't give Pons the defensive maneuver because essentially you get maybe not quite the same movement because like a dash I think is a little longer than the extra range you're getting, but you're also it also makes you aware like this is something that I've noticed is that you can't really deploy to get all three objectives in the rear because you're always like just not quite close enough
You should be able
to
to.
to get. Wait, is this? Am I about to learn something?
Yeah, I mean, you should be
Well,
able to
because the
deploy.
way.
You should be able to deploy. I mean, it might be a little bit more difficult with clones because you don't have the larger bases. I
Oh
know for
yeah,
sure.
you have the big bases,
Yeah,
Todd. See with the clones, I can't make it to all three.
I'm quite
So yet
positive you
again,
can. We'll
that's
have to test that. I'm almost positive you can because if you deploy the primary right in the middle of the like like A, B, C from left to right. If you deploy right
Mhm.
between, like in the middle of A and B, and the middle of B and C with your primary, I think if you can deploy them just perfectly so that you're within range two of at least you can have at least one unit in range two of each one of those back primaries or back
Uh,
objectives.
I
I'm
wonder
almost
if this is an
positive.
effect. This might be effect of my table at home. My table at home is like an inch off of what you're supposed to be playing on, and I wonder if I've been doing something weird.
Yeah,
Huh.
I think you might need to like I don't know. After the podcast, you need to go check that out. But I'm almost positive. Like every game that I've played, at least. But
Okay.
again, like I said, I have B2s, B1s, so I have the larger bases, which might have something to do with it. But I'm almost positive it doesn't.
Huh. I'll have to check. I'll have to check that then. All right. I'm gonna have to do some measuring. Yeah, going with the larger bases, of course, you get
Yeah,
in range of all three, which again could be. I mean, if I'm right, which maybe I've been wrong all this time, could be another reason why I'm behind with clones because I literally can't get in range of the 3 points. But I won't.
I
We'll
don't.
skip past that in case I'm wrong.
Okay.
I don't want to delve into me being wrong.
Oh no, who would want to do that? That's not fun. But yeah.
But regardless, forward scout, I think
Mhm.
is what it's called, right?
Correct.
Forward scout is going to be cool because again, it feels like a lot of the times just to get them in range for all their abilities to work, you're taking a full movement action and defensive maneuver just to get the clones in the fight, especially if you end up activating like your secondaries before your supporting units and like that's just the order of how your deck has gone. It feels like you're like, guys, I need you to be doing laying down coordinated fire here. Like please move up into the fight now.
I know. Yeah, definitely, definitely. It is. It is a nice thing there. I mean, and overall, I mean, I think he has a nice little kit. It's something unique. It's a unique kit to than we've seen before. Only having not having any actives or reactives is interesting, but I don't think it's really gonna hurt him. I mean, and he brings some pretty decent stuff when we're even just looking at his overall. I mean, he's got some decent damage output when we're looking at just his stance card as well. I mean, only rolling 6 dice, range 5 or 5 dice in melee with 5 defensive dice both sides. He's only like can't do up to 7 damage, but he's only got 4 steps down his defensive tree. So it's interesting. I think he's more of a support piece. You just kind of want to have him there to where he's within range for giving that immunity for the exposed, and maybe taking some pop shots here and there.
Yeah, you this squad, especially with Mace's ability and then Pawn's ability, you're moving them along with each other. You're definitely not scattering them to the four winds of the mat. You want to keep them all near each other, moving up solidly, because that's what's going to keep you from getting pushed off points, from getting exposed. Yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of management here.
Yeah, just like with everything with the clones, I think it's all about like you really have to place them and move them very methodically. You really have to be on top of where you're placing them, where you're moving them. You just can't move them without thinking. You have to give some thought before you actually take your actions and what actions you're taking and everything like that. So, do you have any closing thoughts on pawns here?
It's just because the clones think more than droids talk. That's all. They need to think more.
Well, the droids are already programmed to think the way that they're supposed to. They don't have to sit there and worry about all this nonsense of like free thinking, whatever.
Nope, I've got nothing else on pawns. Let's get on to the ARF.
All right, our
Yeah.
ARF boys, I love it. I mean, those now they look pretty cool. I mean, as you said, as we were just talking, I mean, they come with the 3 standardized abilities that we kind of see with everybody with the defensive mover, the coordinated fire, as well as brother in arms. But coordinated fire looks pretty good.
It's exposed. Exposed is so good.
Yeah.
Having played with the Republic Commandos now more, and and the 501st and the 212. I really think the conditions are actually more important than the damage. Like, I kind of wish the commandos didn't have, like, yes, damage matters. Yes, sometimes you're one off, and then the coordinated fire gets that last damage, and you're like, yes, and you feel great. But exposed is way better than a damage. Way, way better than a damage. I'm so ready to get these guys on the table.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Put expose on them before you sit there and roll the dice. They don't get to use just automatically. Just hey, they're within range. I'm turning off your expertise chart. Feels really good.
Yes, yes, and as we've learned, range 5 is massive, so you are gonna want to, again, this whole squad just wants to go down the middle of the board, give everything exposed, protect all your clones. Like you are not sending these guys off to like try and claim multiple points. No, you're gonna start them in the middle and kind of like I think spread out from here, but keep them within range so that you get all those bonuses and you can expose everything. I mean, I've been dealing with the fact I'm finally figuring out the stepson keeps bringing Maul, and you know what Maul does with that pull of his, Todd?
Pulls everybody up the
Ex-
points. Yeah. Oh,
it pulls
exposed
well
Jib.
pulls them off the point, but exposes them, and
Yeah.
that is so like you just feel demoralized. You've just lost the point. You don't get access to your expertise. If he does it to Obi-Wan twice and Obi-Wan doesn't get to turn those crits into failures, you feel really bad. So I want to do it back. I just want my piece of the pie, Todd. I want to do the same thing that's been happening to me to everybody else.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. It make I don't blame you one bit for that. So, like I said, yeah, I mean, everything on their card we've pretty much seen already, like with offensive maneuver, coordinated fire, brother in arms. I mean, it's all kind of the same stuff. But they do have something different, which is that innate ability of lay low. Basically, it's pretty interesting. It adds basically a little bit of love for you at ranged attacks. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think so. I don't know how often the extra expertise is going to come up because if you look, these guys are still just supporting characters. So if you look at their stance card, they're only gonna get to, yeah, 3 expertise or more just gives you 2 blocks,
So
which
I'm not, and I might be misunderstanding this particular ability. The way that I read it is when a character unit rolls their defensive dice against range attacks, if they have one or more tokens, you add the expertise to the roll, meaning you add the expertise as defense also. So they count as defense and expertise. That's the way I'm reading it. Reading? Am I
oh,
reading it wrong? Because that's the way I kind of
let
understand it.
me so all right. So when a character in this unit rolls defense dice during a ranged attack, if this unit has one or more hunker, add expertise to the roll. So when they roll defense dice. So when you roll defense dice, add. See, I read it as you just you roll the dice like you would normal. So
Mm-hmm.
you have a hunker token, so you're going to be rolling at minimum 5 dice. Like we'll just say they have 1 hunker token for this example.
Yeah, so we'll say
So
they
you
have
would
one.
roll 5 dice,
Yeah,
and then I thought you would add to the 5 dice an expertise. Like that's how I read it.
do you automatically get an expertise?
I mean that's how I'm reading it, and maybe we'll have to get more clarification when the box releases, but I don't know. So you're thinking it changes one of the dice to an expertise?
Well, what I'm the way that I'm seeing it, and again, I could be totally wrong. That I think that's probably the problem that I'm having. This ability kind of like was just throwing me off. Is that you're adding your expertise as shields, basically, is the way that I kind of interpreted it. But that again could be wrong. Let me see if I can. Great content here. I'm going to see if I can find it on the forum.
Yeah, no. Well, while you're looking it up, I mean, I'm just looking at it. See, I was thinking that basically you're just always gonna start on 1 expertise with them, regardless of roles. So if you're thinking of it that way, then yes, you are going to add a shield. But I was thinking it was more along the lines of you're going to start at 1 expertise with them no matter what. So whatever you roll, you roll. So 5 dice, and then you finish your roll, you have it there, and then you plug in the 6 dice, let's say, and it has expertise. So you're just starting default at 1, so they're always going to get 1 expertise, and then you get whatever you get from the rest of your rolling. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how I was interpreting it, but
And there's nothing in the
I
rules
don't know.
form yet, so the question hasn't been asked. And
Okay.
again, I am not the rules guru by any means. So I mean, either one of them sounds logical to me. Though, is that you just let me reread this again. What a character is. Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. I think your way of saying it is like you just automatically get an extra expertise.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and we'll find out once we get them on the table and people start playing, figure out what the correct interpretation is. But that's either way, I think it's good. I mean,
Yeah,
it's definitely a way to give them a little bit more durability, you know, sort of in a sense.
sort of, but I think your ways doesn't sound as awesome as mine, which probably
Well,
is which
yeah,
which I think it probably
yours
makes
is
more.
definitely better.
Yeah, which I think, I mean, which, but basically, I mean, like, doesn't like let's say for example, you roll your 5 dice. If you get 1 expertise, it doesn't mean anything. Like if your normal dice rolls 1 expertise, if you have 1 or 2 is just still going to give you one shield. So it's like it doesn't do anything for you. So I guess I think your like now that we've talked this out, yeah, definitely I think your way is the correct way of looking at it and the correct interpretation of it. But yeah, that doesn't seem all that great.
Yeah, no, the clones need those hunger tokens basically because they do not they're just they're not as good defensively as the other factions.
Yeah,
That's just where it is. They really design the clones that they want to work together, they want to be near each other, and they just made them not as tanky, I'm struggling to understand because the battle, like I always thought, at least from a lore perspective, the clones were more adaptable and the clones were better at fighting, and the separatists were just using mass attrition, like they're just churning out all
yeah,
these dinky little battle droids, and the battle droids get taken out by the clones. But the problem is you can only fight so many entities at once physically. That's all you have, and they're just winning through sheer numbers. And the way we're playing it, I'm way more scared of the droids than the droids are of me.
yeah.
Like what's going on here, Todd? But this is how they're choosing to play it mechanically, is that they really got to have cover and the hunker tokens, and they're firing from range, and please keep the Magna Guards away from them. That's not that's not where we want to be.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. It is a little it's off, I guess, as far as like what lore wise what you would expect from the ARF troopers versus what you would expect from from the clone troopers in general or clones in general versus the separatists and the droids. A little backwards, but it's a game. We'll just have to go with what the game gives us. But I mean,
Yeah, and it makes them at least seem more tactical, I guess. Like
mm,
like they're winning through tactical superiority instead of brute strength, which is kind of cool. I'm just getting tired of getting beat up all the time, Todd.
that's fair, very fair. But yeah, I mean, and again, like I don't know. Looking at their tree again, they only go 4 down. I mean, the maximum damage they're pushing out is 5 damage on their tree because they only get 4 total. I mean, I don't not the greatest, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess overall, I mean, if you're going to be playing between these guys or the 501st, I think is the only other option that you would have taking with realistically taking with Mace. Do you think you're going to be would you consider taking the 501st over these guys?
So I think the only thing the 501st has over them is the increased damage,
Yeah.
and don't. I want to reiterate as much as possible, even though I'm running into this trap too sometimes, where I'm letting my forces stretch out thin because I'm thinking about the objectives maybe too much. But this is an objective-based game. We are trying to capture objectives. And I don't think you need extra damage. I think you need status effects and conditions, right? To get your pushes through, to get what you need through on your tree to move people off points and get your guys on points, controlling the board. And I think the exposed is so important that that's why we're seeing these guys as being weaker in other areas. I think what's going to happen is their coordinated fire and their exposed. Like I have said on the podcast before, I hate having to spend a force for coordinated fire. I would never say that that's the right decision until today, Todd, because exposed is just that good.
It's worth
And
the
if you
force.
get into a key moment where you need to just get to, like, maybe you're dealing with protection and steadfast and you need to just get a little more damage and you need two shoves, not one shove. Exposed is how you're going to get those, not the two extra damage from the 501st that maybe you get. Like, I think the exposed is way more significant, and that's why these guys look kind of lackluster, because they got all their power in that coordinated fire.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think I was just throwing the question out just for, you know, grins, basically. But I don't think. I think the exposed is just definitely worth it for sure. But yeah, I mean I think that basically kind of wraps up them. But do you have any closing thoughts on these guys as well?
I think that this is basically going to be the supporting clone unit of choice moving forward. I do not think you're going to want to run either the 501st or the 212 unless you're doing some shenanigans and you want to bring all the beat sticks and you're playing Obi-Wan, or not Obi-Wan, you're playing Anakin and Mace to get all the force and all the damage. Do I think that's a correct team? No, no. Will it be fun? Maybe. I don't know. If you like dealing damage and wounding people, then okay, yes, there's a world where you play the 501st
And
and the
you want to put
and the
all that
ARF and
animosity
the
right
ARF
there.
trooper. You're right, but other than that, I think you're gonna be running commandos as the other ones. You're probably running Rex. Like what I foresee is, and I know you talked about this, but the very first squad that I want to run is uh, Obi and Mace, Rex, the commandos, and then Pawns and the ARF troopers, and let's go.
Yeah.
That's where I want to be day one. As soon as I get this box opened and built and probably not even painted yet. I did a lot of painting, Todd, over the past couple of days. I've been going at it, but I'm still so behind. But yeah, as soon as I get these guys on the table, that's where I'm starting. I mean, there's maybe a universe where you want Lumi instead, but I don't think so. These guys need their hunker tokens
Yeah.
too
No.
too much.
I, I don't
Yeah.
I don't I don't think that's the best thing to do. I think it would be a fun team. I mean, having Luminar in there, it definitely would be fun. But I don't think that's the best thing to do for sure. So I mean, but yeah, it's I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, I think Mace Obi is probably your best team, and for sure. So, but yeah, I mean that's overall. I think that kind of wraps up where we were going to go, and I think everything we really wanted to say about Mace and the entire box itself. So, as always, I just want to once again thank everybody for listening. We do appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you want to help support the podcast, leave a review or even just give us a star rating on whatever podcast you're listening to. It definitely helps us out. Lets us know what we're doing because I always want to improve. I know Aubrey, we definitely want to sit there and make our podcast as good as it could possibly be. So any comment is a good comment as far as we're concerned because we're going to sit there and take that, and it helps us improve and provide the content that I think is best and what everyone else is wanting. So as always, thanks again for listening, and may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.